Ladies and gentlemen, Ellen Dunham-Jones.
Good morning. I hope, so are you feeling centered? Are you feeling a strong sense of purpose? I'm hoping my slides will come up. All right, there we go. That's why we're here. And I think it's also, we're centered because Metro Atlanta, we've rediscovered our centers, both geographically and in our hearts. It's changing how we're thinking about and how we're using public space. For the last 70 years, the decentralization of development patterns of suburbia, with their emphasis on private space, have really been dominant. But that's changing. Today, Atlanta has reversed that pattern. Today, our suburbs are actually following our center's lead. Just look at the Beltline. Its success has triggered a plethora of suburban trails and greenways. Or look at the Tech Square-inspired innovation centers and the Ponce City Market-inspired food halls that are popping up all over our metro. It's not just about their commercial success. Strengthening our cores is also reinforcing togetherness. We're seeing this in revived downtowns from Duluth to Hampton. We're seeing it in brand new downtowns from Smyrna to Sonoya. Planning throughout our region has become much more fine-grained and walkable, largely in part because of ARC's LCI program. It's giving us vastly improved public spaces, lively streetscapes, parks, and town centers, whose farmers markets, concerts, and yoga classes are more we than me. What's changed most is that we're thinking differently about underinvested areas. Instead of running away from them, as we did during the heyday of sprawl, we're running towards them. In town, we're running towards the vacant lots, the abandoned buildings and rail lines. OTP, we're running towards the aging strip malls and the out-of-date office parks. These are giving us great opportunities to meet the demand for walkable urbanism and improve environmental performance. But now, instead of neglect, our in-town neighborhoods are struggling with gentrification and displacement. And OTP communities are confronting the suburbanization of poverty, which grew at a rate of 159% over the last decade, the highest in the nation. Both are growing, interconnected problems we must address. We have a lot of work to do to increase equity in our residential areas. But we're actually doing a fairly good job at retrofitting our commercial properties, and really according to three basic strategies. The first strategy is redevelopment into more compact, walkable, mixed-use places. City Springs is a great example. The former Target store and parking lot is being redeveloped into a mixed-use civic center. It will be anchored by a performing arts center and a town green with future phases on adjacent blocks. This is one of my favorite examples of the second strategy, re-inhabitation with more community-serving uses. Buhigh Walk will link together the walkways of the strip malls along Buford Highway. Instead of a dreary walk in between the highway and the parking lots, this promises a celebration of ethnic business shop window displays and colorful crosswalks and lanterns. The third strategy is regreening, and we're actually doing a fair amount of it here in Atlanta, especially in terms of how we treat and manage water. Our region has been racking up awards from the early innovations in Clayton County to Emory University's new water hub. But in terms of placemaking, the most dramatic examples are our stormwater parks. Instead of holding tanks underground to keep our sewers from overflowing, Atlanta is becoming a leader in regreening parking lots, flood-prone areas, and perhaps even a portion of our airport into parks. They're designed a bit like a bathtub to hold significant amounts of water when they need to, but the rest of the time, they're providing neighborhood amenities that can catalyze reinvestment. Perhaps most importantly, all of these retrofits are replacing defensive design with welcome signs. Fences, blank walls, and unoccupiable landscaping are like armor. They send a very clear message of distrust, go away. Instead, we're seeing more seating, more front doors, and yes, yarn bombing. These are signs of welcome, trust, and a community that cares about its public space. And that's why studies show that when yarn bombing goes in, crime goes down. Now, which crime deterrent techniques produces the public realm you would prefer? I think the answer is obvious. But, all of these, let me go back. I think the answer is obvious. But all of these little discrete, welcoming centers of walkable urbanism won't add up to much unless they're connected and accessible. This brings me to my final point. Our biggest challenge: how do we simultaneously expand our transportation options and equitable inclusion? Collectively, we have to figure out how to build improvements to neighborhoods without displacement. We have to preserve existing affordable housing and build more of it. And we have to start planning now for how we want the new technologies of robo-taxis and driverless shuttle buses to give us the shared mobility systems and futures our communities need. These are big challenges. They're going to take leadership, a more shared economy, and a culture of trust. And that is going to grow through 1,000 individual actions. Now, I want all of you to champion more welcoming design. Design matters. But I also want all of you, each of you, to build a culture of togetherness in transportation. Let's all agree to share more rides with strangers. Let's strike up conversations, whether it's on transit or Lyft Line or Uber Pool. Aristotle once said, "The point of public space is to teach us how to live well together." I can think of no greater goal for a recentered Metro Atlanta. Thank you.